So Wayne Rooney has got himself a new job at Plymouth Argyle, and in this video I'm going to be talking all about his time at his previous clubs, that being Derby County, DC United and Birmingham City. I'm going to talk about some big tactical aspects that I noticed when he was at Derby County and things which I think he needs to improve on heading into this spell at Plymouth Argyle, things which could aid the possibility of Plymouth Argyle staying not only in the Championship, but maybe even pushing for the top half, maybe even the playoff positions. First off, we're going to take a look into his career, and then at the end, we're going to go through some tactical bits and see what I think Wayne Rooney can do heading into next season. So this is Wayne Rooney. Obviously, you all know who he is, a magnificent player throughout his playing career. He spent time at a range of different clubs, most notably Manchester United, Everton, Derby County. Spent time over in DC as well, and what a brilliant career he had, and it's not quite translated into management yet. During his time at Derby, he spent 585 days in the post. 60 of those days, he was an interim manager. In 84 games, he provided 25 wins, 21 draws and 38 losses. He averaged 1.14 points per game during his main management period and 1.18 points per game during his period when he was interim manager. Now, with his spell at Derby County, I think it's massive to point out the 21 points that were deducted at Derby County, having to go through administration, losing players left, right and centre, and being unable to bolster the squad, and it ended up costing Derby County in the end. And although I think we could have survived that season, it was our away form that was the biggest problem, and the inability to change styles and systems depending on who we were playing. He spent a lot of time in a 4-2-3-1 when he was at Derby County, but also on occasion played a bit of a 3-5-2. And for me, the style of football, for me, I thought it was great. I really enjoyed watching it. We really tried to build with the ball, and we really tried to not let opposition teams sort of scare us. And I think it showed in some of the results. And I think the style of football was one that was much better against those better teams that wanted to come out and play, compared to against those teams that were like, oh, we can just sit in and do nothing, essentially, and just defend. And that's what I think. I think during Wayne Rooney's time at Derby, I thought he was a really good manager. I think Liam Rosenior was a massive help in setting up Derby County tactically. It's going to be really interesting to see how he handles it at Plymouth Argyle. Obviously, he didn't take Rosenior to DC, he didn't take Rosenior to Birmingham City, and he's not quite been able to implement his thoughts and philosophies within those two clubs for a range of different reasons. Now, let's take a look into his time at DC United, where he spent 453 days in post, 53 games, 14 wins, 13 draws, 26 losses, 1.04 points per game. Now, when researching his time at DC United, there's a lot of talk about some issues behind the scenes. Rooney wasn't able to fully implement what he wanted to implement due to off-field issues and things like that. Now, I'm not particularly clued up on DC United, so you'll have to let me know the thoughts and feelings around that. Obviously, I know he bought him a range of different players. He took Ravel Morrison. I believe he had Benteke and things like that over there. So it was, in my opinion, it was a spell that it was really for Rooney to learn his trade. And I think he did do that. And I think the first season he struggled. Second season got more and more sort of to the way he wanted. But it was just one of those where it wasn't quite working out. And he ended up finding himself coming back to England and heading to Birmingham City, where we all know it wasn't a great spell for him. 83 days as the manager, 15 games, 2 wins, 4 draws, 9 losses, 0.67 points per game. Now, I never want Rooney to fail. I think the way he handled the Derby situation was absolutely massive. I didn't want him to fail at Birmingham. I didn't want him to fail at DC. And I just think he got really unlucky. He went in when the new owners were talking a lot and bigging up the expectation, and they were in 6th place when John Eustace was sacked for Wayne Rooney to come in. And I just felt he was given a difficult position to start off with, where if he didn't win games instantly, he was never going to get the time. Now, do I think Rooney would have kept Birmingham in the Championship had he had a transfer window and actually had time to implement his philosophy? I think he would have. But I also think that Birmingham did the wrong thing. I think they should have waited until January to get rid of Eustace and done it around December time, because they had a tough run of fixtures. I believe in Rooney's first 15 games, played Leicester, Ipswich, I believe they played Southampton, and all sort of like the top sides. Now, I thought Birmingham were punching above their weight with John Eustace anyway, and I think it really showed when Rooney came in, and then when Mowbray and then Rowett took over. I thought it was quite obvious that they weren't necessarily a top six side, but they were punching above their weight to start the season, and that happens. It does happen, and I felt like Rooney wasn't given the time to make the squad his. He was just having to deal with a plate that he was given that he didn't make, and it was unfortunate in my opinion, but that's something that happens in football. And now he heads to Plymouth Argyle, and we're going to now talk through some tactical bits about Wayne Rooney and his style of football and how it came to play at Derby County, and potentially things how it followed through into Birmingham and DC United. So what you're going to be seeing on screen right now is two teams set up in formations on a tactics board. I think that's quite obvious, and what I'm going to show you is some tactical elements of Wayne Rooney's philosophy and style of play to get the players into the best positions. Now, it changes depending on the personnel in the squad, as it did with Derby County during the 21-22 season. But ultimately, the philosophy stays the same, and we saw it sort of translate to Birmingham, but it didn't translate very well. What I'm going to show you now is I'm going to show you sort of the goal kick routine, which Derby County used, and I'm going to show you how it can be best used to implement the squad. Now, what I am going to show you is the fullbacks getting high up the pitch into attacking areas, and the way that it leaves you sort of vulnerable at the back, but if you can get out, it puts you in a really good position. It does. So let's just bring all these players out here so that you can see where everyone would normally be. So as you can see from the goal kick, one of the centre halves has the ball, and there's a couple of options which can go with this. And Derby usually would have one man in the middle, and the opposition would go like this. So you'd have sort of a wide man blocking that. You'd have this player here would go either side, whichever fullback is free. So on this occasion, he'd go over here, sort of offer an option for the number two. And what you see here is you'd see sort of these players sort of open up this space in the middle of the park. Now, Derby County's main philosophy was let's play out during the time, and it'd go to the keeper, and then there was multiple options which would come on. Obviously, these players here would press the goalkeeper to try and make him send it long. And the keeper then had a split-second decision to make. Do I go into the number 8 and bring it out over here so that he can bring it out over here, turn his man here, or do I send it long and try and win the header? Now, in Derby County's case, on the left-hand side, they had Craig Forsyth or Lee Buchanan, two players who, in my opinion, are really good with the ball in the air. Obviously, at Birmingham City, you also had Lee Buchanan, but it was worked a little bit differently. But then on the right-hand side, at right back, they either had Nathan Byrne or Festi Ebiseli, two players who are a bit on the smaller side, but are capable in the air. So the main intention was, if this man over here was free, it would go. And then this player here would go into the channel. This player could go up here as well. Obviously, opens up space within the middle of the park while these people try and defend. But you do always get one man free from this goal kick routine because of the way they set up. But the other way that it can be played, depending again on how it's set up. So let's just swap this over so that the 7 comes in over here. You've got your 10 there and stuff like that. So the other way it can be set up is it can come in here and then go into the number 8, which then gives the number 8 the opportunity to run into all this space here, or whichever side the number 10 is for the opposition team, the more forward-thinking attacker. And that then opens up the opportunity for the ball to go out wide to your other midfielder who can get on the ball. And then again, you then get these players pulling out to come over, which opens up space again over here to bring the ball back round. And that's something which Derby County did really well. And there's probably a goal which you can go and find. It came from a defensive bit of play with Derby County where we won the ball down in the right back position over here. It went into midfield and it was literally one touch all the way through, chipped the goalkeeper. And that really is Rooney's philosophy. And I think during the time when he was at Derby, he was blessed with midfielders who I think can really play football, especially Max Bird and Tom Lawrence, and Ravel Morrison, who could get on the ball in midfield and get on that ball and sort of, right, do I need to take 6 or 7 touches, or can I just let it go? And often Max Bird would get the ball in sort of these areas and find Tom Lawrence over here, and then we'd occasionally have the likes of Festi Abaselli in a 1v1 situation out over here, which we'd utilise really, really well with his pace and power to get in to the final third and create a goal scoring opportunity. And that's something which I felt Derby County did very, very well. A problem that on occasion Derby County did face with Wayne Rooney's philosophy was on occasion the right back would come into midfield, pretty similar to how Jurgen Klopp and Pep Guardiola have done in recent years. And although I don't think Derby County quite had the players able to do it, Nathan Byrne was the one who most commonly did it. And he would come into midfield into about this area here, offer support for Max Bird, and then Graham Shinney would push out to left back in order to give Craig Forsyth the opportunity to get up and down the wing, because Craig Forsyth can put in an excellent delivery. This would then give whoever was on the left side the opportunity to come inside, giving the number 2 a decision to make. Now, the problem that Derby County then faced is if this player out here on the right hand side, probably Festi Abaselli or Malcolm Ebioe, got on the ball and had that 1v1 opportunity, if they failed to beat their man, the left side, or whatever side it is for the opposition, would then have free space down this right hand side to play in, essentially. And we'd occasionally have players cheat defensively, where he'd sort of like stand in this area, not really applying pressure and holding off, and then you'd have this centre back come over, these would all come over and leave that man free at the back post. Now, we did score a couple of goals from this type of situation where the player would beat the man all the way down here, get the ball into the box, back post, goal. Now, it wasn't often, but it did happen. And then the problem that we saw was if this player here won the ball, this man was cheating defensively and could go. This man here could go. The striker could go in behind. And because of the defenders we had, like we started the season with Phil Jagielka and Curtis Davis, and we was playing quite a high line, and they didn't have the pace on occasion to keep up. Now, they were very good at putting themselves in good positions. Like in this situation, Shinney sometimes would sit in that area and Bird in that area. When they win the ball, they'd drop. When they'd win the ball, they'd drop into that sort of tactical shape. And then the problem was that we had 4 players that were completely non-existent in the play. And to get back in, it was such a difficult task. And because we had such an ageing squad, like Craig Forsyth at the time, I think was 32. You've then got Shinney in midfield, who was getting to his 30s. Jagielka and Davis. Byrne was 30. So it's one of those where these players in that front line were just unable to do what they needed to do. And we didn't really have the possessional standings that we wanted to be able to show what we wanted to show. Now, had we been able to get the players in which Wayne Rooney wanted in that second half of the season, I think we would have stayed up. Absolutely. We was looking at the likes of Amad Diallo, and there was some other players linked as well at the time. But obviously, because we didn't get out of administration, it caused a few problems. Now, this is the big problem for Wayne Rooney's side, is if you haven't got a solid central midfielder who can defend in those wide areas, you then cause yourself a problem defensively. Now, if we show this the other way around, at one point we played something like this, where I think it was against Middlesbrough. We ended up losing the game, as you can imagine, where Max Bird was playing left centre-back to get on the ball. And it wasn't a case of he was playing in midfield, moving to left centre-back. No, we played with a 3 like that. And Bird didn't start in that left-back role, left centre-back role, but that's where he went. And we was essentially playing something a little like this, where we had sort of one man up front, we had an entire free space over here for the full-back, wing back to get into, and then we had sort of like your Tom Lawrence and Luke Plange, or Tom Lawrence and Colin Kazim-Richards, or Sam Baldock, whoever played in these areas. And it was really difficult because Bird over here would get on the ball and everyone would just sort of like move forward, and then it just keep going. You just ended up going side to side across this back sort of area, and that's a problem that I found with Derby County. Is at times we weren't risky enough, and that's something which hopefully Wayne Rooney has worked on during his time as a manager over recent years. But I'm obviously yet to see that, and it's hopefully something that we can see with Plymouth next season. Now, we've gone through a few tactical elements of Wayne Rooney's style of play and his systems. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments. Do you think he's going to be able to make the step at Plymouth Argyle? Or do you think he's going to be able to make them safe in League One in the Championship? Obviously, they're probably going to lose Morgan Whittaker this summer. It's going to be really interesting to see where he goes or if he stays. So let me know your thoughts down in the comments. Hit that subscribe button, and I'll catch you in my next video. Make sure to go and find me on TikTok, pictured here, and Twitter, pictured here. These are the places where I'll keep you all up to date with all my upcoming videos and my thoughts and feelings around the Formula 1 and football weekend.